The Stranded Captain and the Alien Jungle. Captain Lucas Monroe awoke to a dull ache pulsing through his body. He opened his eyes, finding himself sprawled on the cold, mossy ground, surrounded by towering alien trees. Strange luminescent plants cast an eerie, faint glow across the jungle floor, illuminating the scene of his crash. Bits of his ship lay scattered in the clearing, smoke rising from what was left of the once sleek spacecraft. The disorientation hit him first, a dizzying combination of pain and confusion as he struggled to piece together what had happened. His hands groped the ground beside him, searching for something familiar to ground him in this strange environment. Slowly, his memories pieced themselves together. The asteroid field that had thrown his ship off course, the alarms blaring, the violent descent into the atmosphere. He remembered gripping the controls with all his strength as the vessel broke through the planet's atmosphere and hurtled toward the surface. "Where am I?" he muttered, his voice barely more than a hoarse whisper. Pushing himself up on shaky arms, Lucas took in his surroundings. The trees around him stretched impossibly high, their bark shimmering with an iridescent glow that seemed to pulse in time with his own heartbeat. Leaves the size of sails hung from the branches, each one glowing in shades of blue and purple. Tendrils of mist snaked through the foliage, curling around his ankles like curious fingers. A rustling in the nearby bushes snapped him to full alertness. Instinctively, his hand went to his belt, feeling for his emergency knife, a small but reliable blade he had kept strapped to his side throughout his journey. The sound grew louder, and he froze, his mind racing through possibilities. Was it some alien predator, drawn by the smell of metal and smoke from his crash? Or maybe it was the wind, moving through the strange forest. He held his breath, waiting. The bushes parted, and Lucas's eyes widened as a figure emerged from the shadows. She was tall, her skin a radiant shade of deep blue that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Her eyes were large, like liquid silver, capturing and reflecting the light in a way that seemed almost otherworldly. Dressed in garments woven from leaves and vines, she moved with a fluid grace that was both mesmerizing and intimidating. Lucas swallowed, trying to keep his composure. "Hello," he called, his voice tentative. The woman tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. Slowly, she extended a hand toward him, her fingers long and slender, tipped with delicate claws. She spoke, her voice a soft, musical hum. Though he couldn't understand the words, her tone was soothing, almost calming. Lucas felt an odd pull, a strange familiarity, as if he had heard that voice in a dream. I don't understand," he stammered, gesturing to his ears to indicate the language barrier. She watched him for a moment, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully, before she tapped a small crystal embedded in a bracelet on her wrist. A soft chime sounded, and suddenly her words came through, clear and understandable. "You are not from here," she said, her voice now perfectly understandable, though still tinged with that musical quality. "You fell from the sky." Lucas managed a nod. "I'm Captain Lucas Monroe, from Earth. My ship, it was damaged, and I had to make an emergency landing here." He glanced around at the wreckage, though I'm not sure I'd call it a landing. She studied him for a moment before extending her hand once again, this time with a look of reassurance. "I am Lyra," she said, her gaze softening. "And you are in Eloria, a world far from the one you call Earth. We have not seen your kind here before." Before Lucas could respond, more figures emerged from the shadows, all of them women, each with skin tones that ranged from vibrant emerald to dusky lavender. They moved with the same grace as Lyra, their eyes filled with curiosity as they gathered around him. Lucas could feel their stares, a mixture of awe and intrigue that made him feel like a specimen under a microscope. What is this place?" he asked, glancing from one face to another. Lyra gestured around them, her expression softening. "This is Eloria, a world once visited by many travelers across the stars. Long ago, it was known as a place of peace and beauty, where different species would come to rest, to find solace. But now, Her gaze grew distant, sadness flickering in her eyes. Now we are few. Our people were left behind when the starships stopped coming. Lucas's mind raced as he tried to process what she was saying. A forgotten world inhabited by a small group of alien women. He had heard tales of such places in spacefarer legends, planets once bustling with interstellar travelers, abandoned and left to their fates. But he had never expected to find himself on one. And there are no men, he ventured, noticing the absence of any other male presence. Lyra shook her head. No, not for many, many cycles. You are the first we have seen in a long time. Her silver eyes met his, a mixture of wonder and uncertainty flickering in her gaze. It is strange to see one like you. The story spoke of Earth and its people, but I never thought. The murmurs of the others grew louder, and one of them, a tall woman with skin the color of amethyst, stepped forward. He must be tired, she said, her voice soft and calming. We should take him to the healing pools. Lyra nodded, and with a gentle hand on his shoulder, she guided him deeper into the forest. Lucas felt a sense of awe and bewilderment as they walked, the alien foliage surrounding him like an ancient, living tapestry. The air was thick with a heady floral scent, and he could hear the distant hum of insects, their wings glinting in the soft light. Finally, they arrived at a secluded grove where a series of pools shimmered in the moonlight. The water glowed faintly, casting a serene, ethereal glow across the clearing. Lyra gestured toward the largest pool, her expression encouraging. These waters have healing properties, she explained. They will help your body recover from the crash. Lucas hesitated, feeling the weight of so many curious eyes on him. Do you mind? Maybe giving me a bit of space, he asked, feeling a flush rise to his cheeks. The women exchanged glances, their expressions curious. Lyra seemed to catch on and gave a small, understanding smile. Of course. We respect your customs, Captain Lucas. She turned to the others, speaking in their language, and they slowly retreated, leaving him alone by the pool. Lucas let out a relieved breath and, after a moment of hesitation, stripped off his tattered uniform. The water was warm and inviting as he slid in, enveloping him in a soothing embrace that seemed to wash away the aches and pains of the crash. He closed his eyes, letting the quiet of the grove settle around him. As he soaked, Lucas's mind raced with questions. What kind of place was this? And why had these people been left here, stranded on a world that had been forgotten by the rest of the universe? Part of him knew he should be focusing on finding a way back to his ship, to figure out some means of contacting Earth. But another part of him, drawn to the mysterious allure of Aloria and its inhabitants, couldn't help but wonder what other secrets this strange world held. After what felt like hours, Lucas finally pulled himself from the pool, feeling refreshed and surprisingly invigorated. To his surprise, a set of clean garments had been left for him, a soft tunic and pants woven from the same shimmering material as Lyra's clothing. They fit comfortably, the fabric cool against his skin, and he made his way back to the clearing where the women waited for him. Lyra approached, a hint of amusement in her silver eyes. "You look much better, Captain Lucas," she said. "Come, we will show you our village. There is much we want to learn about you, and much, I am sure, that you would like to learn about us." As Lucas followed her through the jungle, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had taken a turn that was as unexpected as it was extraordinary. The village of forgotten dreams. As Lucas followed Lyra through the dense forest, he couldn't help but marvel at the world around him. Everything in Aloria seemed to pulse with life. Trees that shimmered, plants that sang softly in the breeze. Even the ground seemed to yield beneath his steps, cushioning his every move. The deeper they ventured, the more Lucas sensed an overwhelming connection between this world and its inhabitants, as if the forest itself was watching him. Before long, they emerged from the thicket, revealing a sprawling village nestled in the heart of a vast, misty valley. The sight took Lucas's breath away. The village was unlike any he had seen on Earth. Its buildings seemed to grow from the ground itself, organic structures that twisted and arched, made from materials that gleamed like mother of pearl in the faint light of the setting sun. Vines and flowers adorned every surface, spilling from the rooftops, winding around the walls, and hanging in vibrant curtains between the dwellings. As they walked, Lucas noticed the women of the village gathering along the path, each one watching him with a mixture of curiosity and excitement. Their skin tones varied in an endless array of colors, from emerald green to soft lavender, and each had a unique beauty that seemed as much a part of the landscape as the trees and flowers. He felt as though he had walked into an ancient, hidden paradise, untouched by time or hardship. Laura gestured to a large, circular structure at the village's center. "This is the heart of our village," she explained. "The elders meet here, and we gather for our most important celebrations." Her voice was gentle, but Lucas detected a hint of pride in her words. Lucas followed her inside, stepping into a spacious chamber lit by soft, bioluminescent plants that hung from the ceiling like chandeliers. A group of women awaited them, seated in a circle on woven mats. At the sight of him, they rose gracefully, their expressions solemn yet welcoming. The air was thick with a sense of ritual, as though he had stumbled into a sacred gathering. One of the women, her skin a deep sapphire blue like Lyra's but her eyes a piercing shade of gold, stepped forward. She wore a woven crown of leaves and blossoms, marking her as someone of high standing. Lyra dipped her head respectfully, and Lucas quickly followed suit, feeling a rush of nerves. "Welcome, Captain Lucas Monroe," the woman said in a voice rich with authority and warmth. "I am Nara, elder of Aloria and guide to our people. It has been many generations since we have seen a visitor from the stars." Her gaze was intense, as if she were trying to peer into the depths of his soul. "Tell us, what brought you here to our forgotten world?" Lucas took a steadying breath. "It was an accident. My ship, it veered off course after an asteroid impact. I tried to make an emergency landing, but..." He gestured vaguely, feeling the weight of their attention on him. "I didn't mean to intrude. I'm just looking for a way to contact my crew, my people back home." Nara nodded thoughtfully, her golden eyes never leaving his face. "We understand the longing to return to one's own kind. Aloria was once a place of many visitors, travelers from distant stars who came seeking peace and beauty. But now only we remain." Lucas looked around at the gathered faces, each one filled with a quiet intensity. How did this happen? Why did everyone else leave? Nara's gaze grew distant, and a heavy silence fell over the room. "Long ago, our world was a place of respite, a haven for those who needed to escape the turmoil of their own planets. But there came a time of great wars among the stars, and the travelers stopped coming. One by one, the ships left, and we were forgotten." Lucas's heart sank at her words. He could feel the weight of their isolation, the loss that had been passed down through generations. To live in a place so beautiful, yet be cut off from the universe, felt like a bittersweet curse. "We have adapted," Nara continued, her voice softening. "Over time, we learned to survive, to thrive. But our hearts still carry the memories of what was, of the lives we once shared with those from other worlds." Laura placed a comforting hand on Lucas's arm. "You are the first to visit us in a long time, Captain. Your arrival has rekindled old hopes and curiosities." Another woman stepped forward, her skin the color of pale rose petals and her eyes a vibrant emerald green. "We have so many questions about Earth, about your people." Her voice was soft, filled with wonder. "Is it true that Earth has skies of many colors? That water falls from the heavens?" Lucas smiled, feeling a surge of warmth at their genuine curiosity. "Yes, it's true. We have blue skies and rain that falls from clouds. We have oceans and forests and deserts. Earth is beautiful in its own way." The women exchanged excited murmurs, their eyes lighting up at his words. It was strange, he thought, to see a world so advanced in its own right yet so isolated from even the most common sights of his home. Another elder, her hair woven with beads and feathers, spoke up. "We welcome you to stay among us, Captain Lucas, as our honored guest. We wish to learn of your world, and perhaps, if you are willing, to share our knowledge with you." Lucas hesitated. Part of him knew he should be focused on repairing his ship, on finding a way to reach his crew. But something about Eloria, about the sincerity in their eyes, tugged at him. The prospect of sharing stories, of learning about a culture that had been cut off for so long, was tempting. "I'd be honored to stay," he said finally, earning smiles from the gathered women. "But I do have one question. Why are there no men here?" The room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken grief. Nara looked away, her expression heavy. "Our ancestors were left here, abandoned after the wars. Only a few remained, and over time, the balance shifted. Now, there are only women. We carry on, but we are all that remains." Lucas felt a pang of sympathy as he listened. The loneliness they must have endured, the resilience they must have developed, was almost unfathomable. He looked around, seeing the mixture of hope and sadness in their eyes. Lyra placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Come, let us show you where you can rest. You will need your strength if you are to stay among us." As they led him out of the chamber, Lucas felt a mixture of awe and humility. These women had been left behind, forgotten by the rest of the universe, yet they had built a life, a culture, a home here in the heart of Eloria. There was a strength in them, a quiet resilience that made him feel both humbled and inspired. They guided him to a dwelling on the edge of the village, a small structure woven seamlessly into the landscape. Inside, the air was cool and fragrant, filled with the scent of flowers and herbs. A bed made of soft, woven fibers awaited him, its surface contoured to offer perfect support. Lyra lingered at the doorway, her gaze thoughtful. "Tomorrow, we will begin our exchange. There is much we wish to learn about you, Captain, and perhaps you will learn something about us in return." Lucas nodded, feeling a deep gratitude. "Thank you, Lyra. I didn't expect any of this. I'm honored to be here." With a gentle smile, she left him to rest, closing the door behind her. Lucas settled onto the bed, feeling the weight of the day settle over him. He closed his eyes, letting his mind drift, but sleep did not come easily. Images of the village, of the faces of the women who had welcomed him, filled his thoughts. For the first time, he found himself wondering if his arrival on Eloria had been a mere accident, or if he had been brought here for a reason. There was a mystery in this place, a sense of purpose that called to him. As he drifted into a light, restless sleep, he couldn't shake the feeling that his journey was only beginning, and that his time on Eloria would reveal truths he had never anticipated. Discovering the secrets of Eloria. The morning sun cast a gentle glow over Eloria, painting the village in hues of gold and amber. As Lucas stirred awake, he found himself enveloped in a serene warmth, the soft bedding conforming perfectly to his body. A pleasant scent wafted through the air, earthy and floral, reminding him of forests after a rainfall on Earth. The memories of the previous day settled heavily on him, the crash, the village, the women, and the quiet but powerful sense of solitude that permeated this forgotten world. Rising, Lucas was greeted by Lyra, who stood waiting for him outside. She offered him a warm smile, her silvery eyes reflecting the morning light. "Good morning, Captain Lucas. I trust you rested well." Lucas nodded, stretching his sore muscles. "It's hard to believe I'm not dreaming, honestly. This place, it's like a story from ancient myth." Lyra's expression softened, and she gestured for him to follow. "Come, we have much to show you today. The village awaits, and the council has prepared a gathering in your honor." As they walked through the village, Lucas could feel the curious stares of the women following him. The air buzzed with anticipation, and he found himself returning their curious glances, captivated by their serene beauty and otherworldly presence. Every woman he passed seemed to carry herself with a quiet strength, an inner calm that was both comforting and intriguing. Lyra led him to the village square, where a small crowd had gathered around an ancient stone fountain at its center. The water shimmered with a faint glow, casting rippling patterns across the faces of the villagers who had come to witness the arrival of this rare visitor from the stars. Nara, the village elder, stood by the fountain, her golden eyes filled with a mixture of solemnity and hope. She raised her hand, signaling the beginning of the gathering. Today, we welcome Captain Lucas Monroe, a traveler from a distant world, the first we have seen in many lifetimes. Let us share with him the stories of Aloria and the wisdom our ancestors have passed down. The villagers sat on woven mats, forming a circle around the fountain. Lyra guided Lucas to a seat beside her, and as he settled down, Nara began to speak. In ages long past, Aloria was a sanctuary, Nara began, her voice rich with the weight of history. Beings from across the universe came here seeking peace and refuge. Aloria was known as the Haven, a place where all could find respite from the conflicts that tore apart their worlds. Lucas listened intently, drawn in by the vivid images her words conjured. He could almost see the travelers, beings of all shapes and sizes, finding solace in the tranquil beauty of Aloria. But as Nara continued, her tone shifted, darkening like a cloud passing over the sun. "But peace is fragile," she continued, her golden gaze meeting Lucas's. "There came a time when the wars of the universe grew so fierce that even Aloria was not immune. The Haven was abandoned, and we, the descendants of those who stayed behind, were left to forge our own path." Lucas felt a chill as he listened. He had encountered abandoned outposts and empty colonies in his travels, remnants of worlds once thriving but now silent. Yet Aloria was different. It was not desolate but vibrant, alive, and filled with people who had adapted to their circumstances. Nara gestured toward the forest beyond the village. "We were left to survive, to cultivate a life here without the aid of those who once visited us. Our ancestors adapted, learning to work in harmony with the land. The forest became our home, our guardian, and our ally." Lyra placed a hand on Lucas's arm, her expression thoughtful. "The forest is not just a collection of trees and plants. It is a living entity, a source of energy that sustains us. We share a bond with it, one that our ancestors developed to ensure our survival." Intrigued, Lucas glanced at the towering trees, their branches swaying in a gentle breeze. He had always felt a certain respect for nature, but there was something different about this place. The trees seemed to watch him, their leaves rustling as though in greeting. "You mean, the forest is sentient?" Nara nodded, a sullen expression crossing her face. "In a way, yes. The energy of Aloria is something we have learned to connect with, to listen to. It is a part of us, and we are a part of it." As Lucas absorbed her words, he felt a strange warmth in his chest, a sense of being woven into something larger than himself. It was humbling, yet comforting, like finding a place where one truly belonged. He had always been drawn to the stars, to the vastness of space, but here, surrounded by the ancient forest and its enigmatic inhabitants, he felt a different kind of wonder. Nara's voice grew softer as she continued. "We believe that your arrival is no accident, Captain. The forest has whispered of change, of new possibilities. Perhaps you are part of that." Lucas shifted, feeling the weight of her words. The idea that he was meant to be here, that there was some purpose to his crash, unsettled him. He had always been a man of reason, relying on skill and logic to guide him through the unknown. But here, in Aloria, reason seemed to give way to something deeper, something that defied explanation. A young woman with jade-green skin stepped forward, holding a woven basket filled with fruit and herbs. She approached Lucas with a shy smile, offering him a piece of fruit that glowed with an inner light. "Please, Captain, accept this gift. It is a symbol of our trust." Lucas accepted the fruit, feeling its warmth radiate through his fingers. He took a cautious bite, the taste exploding with a sweetness unlike anything he had ever tasted. It was as if the essence of Aloria itself was infused within it, a taste of the forest, the earth, and the sky. The gathered villagers watched him with smiles, their expressions filled with hope. Lucas felt a surge of gratitude, humbled by their kindness and openness. "Thank you." I'm honored to be here, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I didn't expect such a welcome. Nara nodded, her gaze steady. We welcome you as a friend, Lucas, but there is more we must share with you. She gestured to Lyra, who took Lucas by the hand, leading him away from the gathering and toward the edge of the village. They walked in silence, the dense foliage whispering around them as they made their way down a narrow path that led deeper into the forest. After a short walk, they arrived at a clearing, where a massive stone structure stood. Carved from the same opalescent stone as the village buildings, it rose from the ground like a relic of an ancient civilization. Its surface was covered in intricate symbols, spiraling patterns that seemed to glow faintly in the shadowed light. This is a heartstone, Lyra explained, her voice filled with reverence. It is one of the oldest relics of our ancestors, a source of power and knowledge. Lucas reached out, brushing his fingers against the cool stone. He felt a strange vibration beneath his touch, a subtle hum that seemed to resonate with his heartbeat. What is this energy? Lyra's expression grew serious. The heartstone contains the memories of our people, the wisdom of those who came before. It is said to hold the secrets of Aloria, and the power to connect those who are worthy. Lucas pulled his hand back, feeling the weight of her words. And you believe I could connect with it? Lyra nodded, her gaze unwavering. The heartstone has been silent for many generations, but last night, after you arrived, it began to hum again. We believe it may be calling to you, Lucas. A mixture of awe and trepidation filled him. The heartstone was ancient, and he could feel its power radiating through the ground. He had always been a man who sought knowledge, who craved understanding, but this was different. This was an invitation, an opportunity to tap into something far greater than himself. Taking a deep breath, he placed his hand on the heartstone, feeling its cool surface beneath his palm. For a moment, nothing happened. But then, a warmth spread through his fingers, traveling up his arm, filling his chest with a sensation unlike anything he had ever felt. It was as if the stone was reaching out to him, connecting with his very essence. Images began to flood his mind, visions of Aloria's past, of lush gardens and vibrant festivals, of travelers from distant worlds gathered in harmony. He saw the beauty of the haven, its peace and prosperity, and then he saw the wars that had torn it apart, the devastation that had led to its abandonment. Finally, he saw the women of Aloria, left to survive on their own, building a life amidst the ruins, carrying on the legacy of their ancestors with resilience and grace. And then a final image, a vision of himself, standing beside the women of Aloria, his hand on the heartstone, a bridge between their world and the universe beyond. The vision faded, and Lucas staggered back, gasping. Lyra caught his arm, steadying him as he tried to process what he had just seen. You saw it, didn't you? She asked softly, her eyes filled with understanding. Lucas nodded, still reeling. I don't know what it means, but I feel connected, like I'm part of something larger than myself. Lyra smiled, a look of quiet satisfaction on her face. That is the gift of Aloria, Lucas, to show us that we are all part of a greater whole, bound together by the energy of life itself. As they stood together in the shadow of the heartstone, Lucas felt a sense of purpose settle within him. He was no longer just a stranded traveler. He was part of this world, part of its history and its future. And whatever lay ahead, he knew that he would face it not as an outsider, but as a part of Aloria's story. The awakening of ancient powers. Lucas woke the next morning with a feeling of clarity he hadn't experienced in years. His dreams had been filled with vivid images, stars exploding into life, vibrant landscapes stretching endlessly, and faces of the Alorian women he'd come to know, all woven into a kaleidoscope of visions that left him feeling deeply connected to this world. The memory of the heartstone's hum resonated within him, like a melody he couldn't shake. As he stepped outside, Lyra was already waiting for him. She smiled, her silver eyes twinkling in the soft morning light. You look different today, Captain Lucas, she said, her voice gentle but perceptive. The Heartstone has begun to change you. Lucas raised a brow, curiosity piqued. Change me. I only touched it. It felt like it was showing me memories, I think, visions of Aloria's past. Lyra nodded, motioning for him to walk with her. The Heartstone is more than just a relic. It is a living entity, a bridge between our people and the energy that sustains Aloria. Those who touch it may experience visions, but the connection goes deeper. It awakens something within us, something ancient and powerful. As they walked, Lucas felt the forest around him with a new sense of awareness. The rustling of leaves, the hum of insects, the faint glow of bioluminescent plants, all seemed to move in harmony with his own heartbeat. It was as if he could feel the pulse of life itself, a subtle yet profound connection that made him feel less like a visitor and more like a part of this world. They passed through the village, where women paused to greet him, their expressions filled with admiration and warmth. Word of his connection with the Heartstone had evidently spread, and he felt the weight of their expectations, a silent but powerful plea that lingered in their gazes. They saw him as more than a visitor now. He was someone they believed could help them understand the mysteries of Aloria. Eventually, Lyra led him to a secluded grove, a hidden sanctuary deep within the forest. The area was encircled by massive trees with roots that twisted and intertwined, creating a natural amphitheater. At its center was a circular stone platform, carved with symbols similar to those on the Heartstone. "This is the Grove of Echoes," Lyra explained, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is a place of meditation and connection, a sanctuary where our ancestors would come to commune with the forest." Lucas took a slow, reverent breath, feeling the ancient energy that lingered in the air. The grove was silent, yet alive with a palpable presence, as though the spirits of those who had come before still lingered, watching over him. Lyra guided him to the stone platform, motioning for him to sit. "Close your eyes, Lucas," she instructed softly. "Let the energy of Aloria flow through you. Listen to the whispers of the forest and let them guide you." Lucas closed his eyes, grounding himself as he focused on his breathing. He felt the coolness of the stone beneath him, the warmth of the sun filtering through the trees, and the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. Slowly, he allowed himself to relax, surrendering to the unfamiliar sensation of openness, of letting go. As he settled into the silence, a faint hum began to build, similar to what he'd felt from the Heartstone, but softer, more intimate. It was as though the forest itself was speaking to him in a language he couldn't fully understand. Yet, somehow, he felt its meaning, a sense of unity, of life intertwining with life, of strength found in togetherness. Suddenly, visions began to swirl in his mind, clearer and more intense than before. He saw glimpses of Aloria's ancient past, grand cities rising in harmony with the natural world, towers of gleaming stone intertwined with vines and flowers. He saw the people of Aloria, men and women, children and elders, living in peace, their lives intertwined with the energy of the land. But then the visions shifted. He saw darkness, warships descending from the skies, the land torn apart by conflict and greed. The once thriving cities crumbled, their beauty marred by violence. He felt the sorrow of those who had been left behind, the pain of loss and the determination to survive. Lucas gasped, the weight of the visions overwhelming him. His heart ached for these people, for the life they had lost, for the isolation they had endured. He opened his eyes, blinking away the tears that had gathered, feeling a profound sense of empathy for the women who had welcomed him so openly. Lyra placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, her gaze understanding. "You have seen our past, haven't you? The Heartstone has opened your mind to the memories of Aloria." Lucas nodded, struggling to find words. I saw everything. The peace, the beauty, and then the destruction. I felt their pain, their loss. It's as if the memories of your ancestors are alive, waiting for someone to understand. Lyra gave him a gentle smile. Aloria has been waiting for someone who could bridge the past and the present, someone who could carry our legacy forward. We believe you may be that person, Lucas. He looked at her, the enormity of her words settling over him like a mantle. But why me? I'm just a traveler who crashed here by accident. I'm not special. Lyra's eyes softened. Sometimes it is those who come unexpectedly, those who bring no expectations, who are the most powerful. The Heartstone chose to connect with you, Lucas. You have seen our history, and now perhaps you can help us shape our future. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of her words lingering in the air. Lucas felt a strange sense of purpose, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. His life had always been about exploration, about venturing into the unknown, but this was different. This was a calling, a chance to make a difference, to bring hope to a people who had been forgotten. Lyra rose, extending her hand. Come, there is one more place I want to show you. They walked together, leaving the grove of echoes behind as they ventured deeper into the forest. The path grew narrower, and the trees denser, their branches forming an almost impenetrable canopy overhead. Lucas could feel the energy growing stronger, a pulse that seemed to resonate with his very soul. Finally, they reached a clearing, where a massive stone monolith rose from the ground, covered in intricate carvings and symbols that seemed to glow with an inner light. Lyra stepped forward, her expression reverent. "This is the Pillar of Remembrance," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is said that those who touch it can communicate directly with the spirits of our ancestors." Lucas felt a chill as he approached the pillar, its presence both intimidating and alluring. He reached out, his fingers brushing the cool stone. The moment he made contact, a wave of energy surged through him, filling his mind with voices, whispers from across time. He closed his eyes, allowing himself to be swept away by the flood of memories and emotions. He felt the joy of Aloria's golden age, the unity and love that had once bound its people together. And he felt the sorrow, the heartbreak of those who had been left behind, their longing for connection, for a future beyond the isolation of their world. In the depths of his mind, a single voice rose above the rest, clear and strong. "Lucas," it whispered, filled with a warmth that made him feel as though he were being embraced. "You are not here by accident. You are part of our story, a link between worlds. Aloria has chosen you." He'd opened his eyes, his heart pounding. The voice had felt so real, so personal. He looked at Lyra, seeing the understanding in her eyes. She had known, all along, that he was meant for something more. "Lucas," she said softly, stepping closer, "you are one of us now. The Heartstone, the forest, the pillar, they have all accepted you. Aloria's spirit flows within you." He took a deep, steadying breath, feeling a newfound sense of belonging. "I don't know what the future holds," he said, his voice filled with determination. "But I want to help. I want to bring back the hope that Aloria has lost." Lyra smiled, her eyes filled with pride. "Then let us work together, Lucas. Let us revive the ancient ways, reconnect with the stars, and rebuild what was lost." They stood together, side by side, as the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the clearing. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches reaching out in silent support. And for the first time, Lucas felt a profound sense of purpose, a connection to a world and a people who had chosen him to help restore what had been lost. As darkness fell over Aloria, Lucas knew that his journey had only just begun. He had come here as an outsider, a stranger from a distant world. But now he was part of something greater, a story that stretched across time and space, a legacy waiting to be reborn. The call to rebuild. The next morning, Lucas awoke with a renewed sense of determination. He was no longer just a lost traveler seeking a way home. He was now woven into the fabric of Aloria, bound by the whispers of the Heartstone and the memories of those who had come before. The weight of his newfound purpose filled him with a quiet resolve as he prepared for the day ahead. Lyra waited for him outside his dwelling, her expression hopeful. "The village is preparing for a gathering," she explained as they began to walk. "The council has asked for you to speak, to share your thoughts on the path forward." Lucas felt a rush of nerves. He had never imagined he would be giving a speech to a group of people who saw him as a beacon of hope. Yet, in his heart, he felt a strange certainty, as if the memories he had absorbed from the Heartstone had planted seeds of wisdom within him, waiting to bloom. As they approached the village square, Lucas saw the villagers gathering around the ancient stone fountain. Their faces, marked by years of resilience and quiet sorrow, now carried an unmistakable glimmer of anticipation. He realized then that they had been waiting, perhaps even unconsciously, for a change, for someone or something to reignite their spirit. Nara, the village elder, stood beside the fountain, her golden eyes resting on Lucas with a mixture of pride and expectation. She raised her hand, calling for silence as the murmurs of the crowd faded into a respectful hush. Today, we gather to hear the words of Captain Lucas Monroe, a traveler from a distant world who has been chosen by the Heartstone, she announced, her voice carrying the weight of tradition and authority. He has seen our past and shared our pain. Now, we ask him to guide us toward a new future. Lucas took a steadying breath, feeling the weight of their gazes upon him. He stepped forward, his mind racing to find the right words. "People of Aloria," he began, his voice steady but warm. "I am honored to stand here among you, to be part of a world that is as beautiful as it is resilient. I know that my arrival here was unexpected, perhaps even a disruption to the life you've built. But I believe there is a reason I was brought to Aloria." He paused, gathering his thoughts as he looked out at the sea of faces before him. "When I touched the Heartstone, I saw the memories of your ancestors, the peace and harmony they built, and the heartbreak they endured. I felt their dreams, their love for this land, and their desire to see it thrive once more. They left behind a legacy, a vision of what Aloria could be." A ripple of emotion passed through the crowd, and Lucas felt a surge of confidence. "You have kept that vision alive through your resilience, through the lives you've built here, even as the universe forgot you. But Aloria deserves more than survival. It deserves to flourish, to reclaim its place among the stars." Lyra's gaze met his, her eyes filled with pride and support, and Lucas felt his own resolve strengthen. "We can rebuild Aloria's connection to the universe. We can restore the ancient paths, reach out to other worlds once more, and show them that Aloria lives on. But it will take all of us working together. The Heartstone has chosen me to help guide you, but I cannot do this alone. It is your strength, your wisdom, and your spirit that will make this possible." The crowd remained silent, the weight of his words settling over them like a mantle. Slowly, a woman with emerald green skin and silver-flecked eyes stepped forward. "Captain Lucas," she said, her voice filled with quiet determination, "we have lived in isolation for so long, believing that we had been forgotten. To think of reaching beyond our world, of rebuilding what was lost, it fills me with both hope and fear." Lucas nodded, understanding her hesitation. Change is difficult, and the unknown can be frightening. But you are not alone in this. I am here to learn with you, to explore the possibilities together. Aloria has waited long enough. It's time for us to embrace the future. Nara stepped forward, her gaze steady as she addressed the crowd. "Lucas speaks true. We have clung to our memories and our traditions, yet we have longed for something more. Perhaps the Heartstone has chosen him for this very purpose. Let us support him and each other as we begin this journey." The crowd murmured in agreement, a wave of shared determination rippling through them. One by one, they nodded, their expressions transforming from doubt to conviction. Lucas felt a deep sense of gratitude, humbled by their willingness to place their trust in him. After the gathering, Lara led Lucas to the council's meeting chamber, where Nara and several other elders waited. They were seated around a large table carved from the trunk of an ancient tree, its surface polished to a smooth, gleaming finish. "We have much to discuss," Nara began, her tone serious. "Reconnecting Aloria to the stars is no small task. Our ancestors' knowledge has been preserved, but it will take time and effort to rebuild the technology, to restore the paths that once connected us to the universe." Lucas listened intently, his mind racing with possibilities. We'll need to assess what resources we have here, what technology still exists. I may be able to salvage some parts from my ship to aid in the reconstruction, though it's limited. One of the elders, a woman with dark violet skin and piercing blue eyes, spoke up. There is something else you should see, Lucas. After the wars, our ancestors hid certain relics, tools of knowledge and power that were used to communicate with other worlds. They feared these would attract unwanted attention, so they buried them in places of great secrecy. We call them the relics of unity. Lucas's pulse quickened. These relics, do you know where they're located? The elder nodded. There are 3 known relics, each located in a different part of Aloria. They are guarded by natural barriers and the protective energies of the forest. It is said that only those with a true connection to Aloria can retrieve them. Lara's eyes sparkled with excitement. If we retrieve these relics, they may be able to restore the technology needed to communicate beyond our world. They could be the key to rebuilding Aloria's link to the stars. Lucas felt a surge of determination. The task was daunting, but the potential rewards were immense. Then we need to find these relics. They could be the key to reviving Aloria's legacy. Nara nodded, a look of pride and gratitude in her eyes. Your commitment is clear, Lucas. You have become one of us, not by blood, but by purpose. If you are willing, we will guide you to the first relic. It lies in the Valley of Whispers, a place known for its protective energies. It will not be an easy journey, but we believe you are ready. Lucas met her gaze, his resolve unshaken. I'm ready. If these relics can help bring Aloria back to its former glory, then I'll do whatever it takes. The council prepared provisions and supplies for the journey, gathering herbs, food, and garments woven from the sturdy fibers of Aloria's unique plants. Laura volunteered to accompany Lucas, her face alight with determination. As they set off, Lucas felt a strange excitement rising within him. The forest opened before them, its trees leaning toward them as if in silent support. The path to the Valley of Whispers was treacherous, winding through dense thickets and over uneven terrain. But the further they traveled, the more Lucas felt his connection to the land deepen. Every rustling leaf, every whisper of the wind seemed to guide him, reassuring him that he was on the right path. They walked for hours, Lara's presence a constant source of encouragement and companionship. As night began to fall, they set up camp beneath the shelter of a large, ancient tree with branches that spread like a protective canopy. Sitting by the fire, Lucas looked at Lyra, gratitude and admiration filling his heart. I don't think I could do this without you, he admitted, his voice filled with sincerity. You've been my guide, my friend, and more. I don't know how to thank you. Lyra smiled, her expression warm. You don't need to thank me, Lucas. Aloria chose you, and I believe in the path we are walking. I am honored to be by your side. They sat in silence, the fire casting soft shadows around them as the sounds of the forest filled the air. Lucas felt a deep sense of peace, a feeling of belonging that he had rarely experienced in his travels. Here, on this journey through an alien forest, he had found something he had not even realized he was missing, a sense of home. As dawn broke, they resumed their journey, the landscape growing wilder and more untamed as they approached the Valley of Whispers. The air grew thick with energy, and Lucas could feel the